All right, so here are 3 sound system tuning reference tracks you gotta have in your arsenal. So what are reference tracks for? So we do the hard work of designing a show, getting it out in the field, hanging it in the air, and we need to verify that all these measurements and whatever audio analyzer we're working, we can get it as flat as we want, all this data adding up. At the end of the day, it has to sound good. So having a reference track means it's material that you've already decided in advance that sounds amazing, that you trust it, you know the nuances of it in and out. You've spent years listening to this, and here are 3 tracks that I use regularly these days. I've got more, and I'm going to share you through PDF that's actually got 10, but if you are in system tuning world, you're probably going to want something. It's my Audio Math Survival Spreadsheet. So it's here, it's got over 30 something different calculators that help you get results when you're designing shows and when you're in the field. So I know it feels overwhelming, have this much data, but I've read a ton of stuff and compiled it here to the very useful formulas that I think help you get results. So that's going to be a link below in the chat, or you can go to producedbymkc.com/audio toolkit and it will have that link in there. Okay, so without further ado, what are those reference tracks I speak of? The first one is called Phoenix by Andrew Holmes. It is an absolutely wonderful piece of music. Sorry, I lost my notes here, as you can probably tell. So yeah, it's by Phoenix by Andrew Holmes. And full disclosure, I actually mastered this tune. When I'm not out on shows, I'm here in my studio cave. I do mastering. It's a ton of fun. So that is a record that was released recently. And what I love about it, it has this massive, deep kick drum that hits super, super hard. So it's really going to push your subs hard and really reveal if they are going to be able to handle the type of SPL that you want. It's still a pretty hot master, so it's hitting a limiter pretty hard, but that transient is still super strong all the way down to the super low end, like 30, 40 hertz range. It's got also some sustained bass lines with it. So it's a longer notes that are held. It's not jumping over the place. So I can really walk around the room and hear how a lot of different registers in the bass are going throughout the room. So if I'm doing a walking bass line on a jazz track, that's jumping around quickly. This is sustained, nice deep bass that can give me a good sense of the room at a lot of different frequencies. The mid-range and the vocals also super rich. And side note, why am I not playing for those for you right now? YouTube would yank these down because of licenses, so just want to get it out of the way. So just put these into Spotify, or you can go to the PDF later, which I'll show you that has links to all these. So yeah, this is a very rich mid-range in the vocal. It's the hip hop music thing to scoop the crap out of the vocal, but this one has just really rich mid-range that gets me a good handle of the 300, 600, 1.2K octaves there. So it sounds fantastic. It's also got sustained sections in the song that have no vocal in it, which is really nice if you just want to hear the PA and instrumental section. Usually we center on the vocal because we're humans and we like voices and we talk, but having sections without the vocal is really nice. It has some good turnarounds. And lastly, the hi-hat has really great balanced top end. It's not too toppy. It's not an EDM track where 10K is tearing your head off, but it's a good balance, I'd say right in the middle as far as top end. It's not too zingy and it's not dull sounding either. So that's track number 1, Phoenix by Andrew Holmes. Number 2 is Get Lucky by Daft Punk. We all know this tune. I kept forgetting when it came out, like 2017, I think, but it has much easier transients and controlled from the Andrew Holmes tune. The Andrew Holmes tune, the kick just slams you in the face. It's not overbearing, but it hits really, really hard. This one's more relaxed, so not looking to see what transients are doing in the system as much as the clarity and detail. The hi-hats are incredibly crispy on this track. Not too much, but they serve as a boundary for me that if I'm able, if I'm working on a mix, even in a live setting, I can reference the Get Lucky track and hear if the hats are overcooked or not. If they are crispier than this track, that what I'm working on, than the Daft Punk track, then it's definitely too much. It's also got a really tight, deep bass. The bass player's playing a 5-string, so he gets down to that low D and I think a low B at a couple points. So it's really showing me the basement of my subs. I would say even another adjective for the hats are they're almost airy, and the vocal is not. So a lot of pop music, has a very airy vocal. If you want to look at another track, The Japanese House, Saw You in a Dream, has the most overcooked, airiest vocal out there in the world. It's way too much in my opinion, but the hats are crispy and airy, but the vocal is not. The vocal is very smooth and forward. It also has a very rich mid-range as well. It also doesn't have a ton of hard pan instruments, so if you have to do a weird stereo configuration, you're not going to hear stuff pulling you hard left and hard right. And number 3 is Vultures by John Mayer. This is off his Continuing record. And if you talk to Manny Marroquin, who's interviewed a lot about this record because it sounds so good, he goes, I wanted the record to give you a hug. And that's exactly what it does. It has this warm, tapey low end. The kick, I would say, hits harder than Get Lucky, but not as hard as the Andrew Holmes Phoenix tune. And the bass, it's still just this warm blanket hug, and both of those are just sitting very forward in the mix, very solid, so it's a fantastic foundation. The vocal in it, and John Mayer's vocal, has a ton of 1 to 2K range, which is very interesting. There's not a ton of air in it. There's not a ton of meat. It's really focused there, more that kind of telephone range. So it's just an interesting characteristic about it. And whereas the Get Lucky hi-hats were more real toppy, the hi-hats on Vultures are more shh. So that shows me an octave below that 10K, more like a 5K focus, or in a lot of low end in hi-hat. And it's also very spread in that region as well. So it's a very warm track. You see with all 3 of these tracks, it's really revealing a lot in the sub, and that handoff into the mains is a very commonality for him. And so I want to just talk about these 3 here for brevity's sake, but I've got a PDF here that has I made last year for every track on here except the Phoenix one. You need to edit this, but it's also in my audio toolkit, and it has a lot of these notes on it. Another one's Temptation by Diana Krall. That's one I stole from Jamie, who owns and runs Smart. A little longer by Bethel, has a really deep snare, and just some other ones you can take a look at. So I have that in my audio toolkit. That's again produced by mkc.com/audio toolkit, or I'll have a link here below in the description. My name is Michael Curtis. I love helping people make concerts sound amazing, and that's primarily through sound system design. I want you to know your stuff, so please comment below and let me know what your favorite reference track is, and I would love to hear from you. I'm going to clumsily end this live stream, and I will see you on another video. Thanks.